God.
Oh my God.
Oh no.
G'day and welcome back to Stitch Up, and the first episode in a new series in Planet Coaster, one of our favourite games here on Stitch Up Gaming. And of course, as you saw from that lovely footage at the very start, this is going to be Dante's Peak, the ride. So similar to Deep Blue Sea, the ride, which is a work in progress, this will be another series that will show you the creation of this ride that I will be creating in Planet Coaster. And of course, on screen at the moment, we're just seeing the creation starting to map out with the giant X. For most of the park file here is actually going to be Dante's Peak, this massive mountain that is going to be the setting for this ride. We'll talk a little bit more about what the end game is here, and what I want to get out of the series, and where I think the series is going to go. We're going to cut to some we're going to cut to some footage from the movie. Very shortly, we'll actually have a look of the volcano erupting. In fact, let's cut to that now. Actually, yeah, let's have a bit of a look at the volcano erupting. This is Dante's Peak. That's very cool. So it's erupting there, and Linda Hamilton. You've got Linda Hamilton there, and you've got Pierce Brosnan, and they're both reacting to this mountain erupting. Of course, in the movie, if you haven't seen Dante's Peak, it's a disaster movie. I think it's made sort of in the 90s. It's all about a so-called dormant volcano called Dante's Peak that sits above an idyllic sort of town. I guess it's set in the mountainous region of the US. It's actually the town. There's quite a picturesque town. The town is actually Wallace, Idaho. And there is no mountain behind it. The mountain has been digitally imposed, and not for that particular part of the digitally imposing, but they do actually add in Mount St. Helens. It actually stands in. So there are scenes here that we'll create with this particular ride, and there'll be different points. I'm going to explain quite a bit of this as we go along, and I want to tell you what we're going to be doing in future episodes. But just to cut to one of them, there's the caldera, or the very top of the of Dante's Peak, and what happens in that one is there's actually a scene, so we'll actually get the ride vehicle up the top of it. So this is going to be a continuous ride. I'm not sure which ride vehicle we're going to have. I'm not sure if it's going to be a fast, medium or slow ride. It'll be some sort of track ride, but it needs to have a little bit of speed. And of course, I guess the end result here, much like Deep Blue Sea, the ride, which we haven't finished yet, but what will happen is the end result will be to create a high quality video with just showing the ride, and we can point the camera at various scenes as it goes along. So I think that'll be quite cool. I do also plan to maybe put the ride up on, or to put the park file on Steam Workshop if I can. We'll see about that one as well. We're actually going to go back to some more footage of from Dante's Peak, the movie. And we're going to have a look at some of the destruction, and these are just to show you, these are some of the things about what happens in the town. There's a freeway there, what happens in the town and how it gets destroyed by this erupting volcano. So we're actually going to cut in and have a look at some of those, and then we'll think about maybe the studios pack and how we can use that in Planet Coaster to recreate this. It's going to be quite a challenge, but it's something that I kind of really look forward to working on in the background. Let's have a look at some more footage from Dante's Peak. Okay, so a little bit more back to exactly what we're creating on screen here. You can see the mountain certainly coming along. We're definitely, what we do actually in this episode is we create the mountain, and then right at the end we actually scale the mountain back and make it a little bit sharper and reduce the size of it. It just got too big, and the thing is, the size of it was great. It's meant to be imposing when you look at it from the town. You know, we want the ride vehicle to at some point go up the mountain, and we've talked about the caldera. We'll talk about the lake and the acidic lake. And also the time of day that this ride is going to be featured on, because in the movie it does start about the daytime, and then it really does move into this kind of nighttime setting, and you get that sunset, and then you get all the lava and stuff. But we'll talk a bit more about that as we come up to it. You can hear the soundtrack in the background as well. I've selected some cinematic sort of music just to set the tone. I guess when we get to the final product, we'll actually try and see if we can get actually get sound from the movie, and see how many copyright strikes we can get in the one video. Okay, I guess what I'll be doing is, while my channel's not monetized, I won't be too worried about said things, and then we can always recut and reshape and refix later on, so that's all fine. But I want to include bits from the movie at the moment. I do want to include those, and let's talk about some of the different scenes that we're going to see here. So you'll see me building this shape, this big mountain. And of course, we've got terrain limitations there as well. So we are going to have to start putting some boulders on top of it as well. So trying to get this transition between this natural grass, rock, terrain modification in Planet Coaster, to then get it up into some actual rocks. The caldera, or the summit of the volcano, is all going to be made up with rocks. So I guess what I need to do is I do need to get that transition going really nicely. North American pine trees are going to help us with this. There's going to be different levels. But there are different things that happen in Dante's Peak, the movie. And one thing, let's just talk about the town. So there is the township, and if you see the lake in the background that's on screen at the moment, the township is actually going to be, so the township will be over on the lake side, and the ride will start over there, not where the park entrance is. So the ride will start over there on the lake side, and people will get into that. And I guess what will happen is there might even be a bit of a walkthrough before you get onto the ride, where people can walk into the post office. So there's an actual building, which is a post office of Wallace, Idaho, and that post office is meant to be one of the main buildings in Dante's Peak, the movie. So what we'll do is we'll have the walkthrough where they're going into that building, and we may include the town hall scene, which we just saw a little bit of. I have to see about the robotics and how many people we can get screaming and yelling. I don't think I'm going to be able to have Linda Hamilton or Pierce in there, unfortunately. I'd love a little Linda Hamilton robotic, but I'm not sure that's actually going to happen. So we'll see about this. I mean, she's going to be on the thumbnail, I'll tell you that much. She's definitely going to be on the thumbnail, unless I've edited her out and she's not, but otherwise I plan to put her in there. But yeah, we've got this lovely town of Dante's Peak, and of course in the movie they mentioned population this and all that sort of stuff, so we're going to recreate things that if you know the movie quite well, or if it was a favourite movie as you're growing up. The movie's 20 or 25 years old now. It still holds up though. It does still hold up. Funny enough, this movie came out in the same year that Titanic came out. So it came out in the same year that Titanic came out. It came out in the same year that Starship Troopers come out. And of course, this movie would have got some cinematography and some special effects Oscars. But I'm not even sure I got nominated because of Titanic. And even if it did get nominated, it wouldn't have won because of Titanic. So I think it's that 97. I think it's 97. You can start to see me here try and play around with the angles. What I'm doing here is I'm trying to work out from the base of the mountain. I'm trying to create this sort of angle to get this very conical shaped mountain, and I really struggle here. But what happened is it took me, now this was recorded over the course of a few weeks. So I did an hour here, I did an hour there, and I've put all these little recordings together. And what actually happened is right towards the end, you'll see I come up with a more mathematical way of getting the mountain together. I've actually just popped in as well. You can see there's a little set of shops in there that's from the workshop. These won't be included, I don't believe. I'm pretty sure they won't be included, but I've put them in there for a bit of scale just to see, so you can see here this mountain, and then the little township that would be below it. If you magnify that, so there's 3 or 4 buildings in there. If you put that in, and there were about 15 buildings, I would imagine, maybe the freeway and all that sort of stuff, all sitting in there. But don't forget, this is not meant to be realism. This is part of the magic of the ride, and so this would be a ridiculously expensive ride to recreate in real life, and hence why we can do these things in Planet Coaster, and I want to try and do it fairly well. It's the same as Deep Blue Sea, the ride. It's my way of... this is something I love about this game. I love trying to use the adventure pack, the studios pack, and the base game, and any of the other packs as well, or any of the other DLCs or things that have been added in, even Theme Maker's Toolkit, now that we have the good computer, but even any of these tools, just to recreate these kind of movies, and that's something that I really like. And the other thing as well is, I guess if I'm doing a Planet Coaster series, and I will be starting Planet Coaster series coming up, there's going to be a couple of series that I'm really in the stages of planning, but I like to think of things, I like to plan things. I mean, if you were to... If the webcam was switched on now and you would look at me while I'm recording the audio for this file, you'd see that I'm looking at a piece of paper, a notepad. And what I've done is I've done a top-down version of the mountain. I've split it up into like, say, 5 or 6 pie shapes. And I did this at like midnight one night, and I actually did this. And I was sort of so excited. I just watched the movie. I think it was the night before my computer, the new computer arrived, the new rig. And I think I was just excited about getting back into Planet Coaster and it playing fairly good on a on a decent rig as well. So yeah, I guess the idea will be that we'll have lots and lots of pieces, and we don't want it to be able to to slow down. We want the ride to run smoothly and beautifully, but we want some detailing in there. But I also want some special effects. So I guess what's going to happen is there's different parts of the ride. So we'll definitely start off in the township, and we'll board the ride in one of the buildings that are inside the town, and we'll move out into the actual ride. One of the first scenes that actually happens is the hot springs. So there'll be a hot springs episode that'll focus on the building of this. But one of the things is the annoying grandma who ends up dying at the end, brilliant, and the kids, and Pierce Brosnan and Linda Hamilton, they all go up to the hot springs. They want to go do that. Actually, just notice on screen, if you just see here, I'm trying to use the roughen tool, and this is also, so again, you're seeing different effects that I'm layering onto the mountain. And then what I'll do is I'll go and smooth these out at different ratios. So at the moment, it's a big mountain. We've got the roughen tool turned up to the biggest size, to the biggest sort of strength, and then we're actually asking it to paint over the top as well. So I'm starting to paint some of the rock in, and the idea would be then that I create this and then I strip back off it. It ends up looking a bit too much like a big moon rock, as it's looking there. That's the dark side of the moon right there. Tranquility Base. There's an idea for another ride. There's an idea for another little project. Anyway, so back to the hot springs. So one of the things that the ride vehicle will pass by is this very peaceful sign of these hot springs, which is supposed to be quite lovely and will have nice music. And then all of a sudden we get the danger music, and you can see the hot springs are bubbling away, and we'll have some burnt bodies that'll float to the surface. These are some of the things that I want to try and recreate in it. A little bit up the mountain as well. So they do go slightly up the mountain to get to the hot springs. The 5 of them, 2 kids and the dog, the annoying grandmother, and Linda and Pierce, and they go up the mountain. Now the grandmother as well actually lives up the mountain at a lake, so there's another lake that's somewhere up the mountain. We're only going to be able to recreate some of the lake, and I guess the idea is you might think that it's part of the actual lake that you see near the township, but as you go up the mountain, we're going to see the peaceful side of this lake, because it'll be her lovely wooden log cabin, and that'll be quite nice. We'll recreate that, it'll be nice, and we'll see all this. And then what happens is when they're in there, they'll then come back down the town, I imagine, in the order of it. So they'll then come back down the town. There's also a scene where they'll go back up into the caldera, so they'll actually go a bit higher. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to create some audio files as well with some acting and some voiceover work, which is going to be, let's go, we need to go and investigate what's happening up at the summit and that sort of stuff. Now, up at the summit, there is a helicopter rescue. We know we can do this in Planet Coaster because helicopters are in there. So we can do helicopters in Planet Coaster. How we do that without it being slightly crazy is interesting, because I don't want the helicopter visible at the other parts of the ride. So when you look up at the mountain, I don't want to see the helicopter during peaceful time. And of course, when we're at the end of the ride, when the whole thing's erupting, I guess it's going to be darkness, but I don't want to see the helicopter as well. But I guess it's going to be complete darkness. So I'm going to use the lighting tool to dim the lights as we go through, and to get it through this sort of. I imagine the ride starts at 4 in the afternoon, and at the space of maybe a 4-minute ride, I think the whole thing might last 4 minutes. Maybe in the space of 4 minutes it goes into nighttime, and then the sun will come up and there'll be a rescue, and we'll talk about the rescue a little bit later. You could see at the end of some of that footage that we actually just looked at as well, there was a bridge, and there's a lovely bridge near the town, and what we'll do is we'll recreate that near the freeway. We'll recreate the bridge and the river all along the township, so we can see all that before it gets destroyed. Then in the movie, around the other side of the mountain, when everything's kind of happening and we're waiting, see there are two massive eruptions that happen in the movie. There's the pre-eruption where it comes up and it's going to be spectacular, and we're going to be able to do that. But then after that, there's this other eruption which is just ridiculous, and everything completely blows up. Actually, on screen, this is a good time to point out, so you can actually see what we're doing here. So I had terrain limitations and I had to build the top of it. So what I actually did is I grabbed the very top of the terrain, and then I grabbed what I think are 45 degree, maybe 40 degrees or something, but I grabbed, no, I think they're 45s, but I grabbed these guys, and you'll see over here that I grabbed them, and I made a bit of a wooden peak. And the reason I did this is I will hide the wooden peak completely. There'll be a wooden structure hidden underneath the dome. But the other reason I did it is I want to start shaving the mountain away. The mountain's too big and it's not steep enough, so when you look at it, you got to think as well, this is meant to be a ride, it's not meant to be real. I'm not trying to recreate the real thing, I'm trying to recreate a ride. And so the mountain in theory would have been built for this ride, and it's just too big. So we start to shave it all down, and we see a smaller mountain, but it's steeper and it's more imposing, and it's got that kind of steepness to it, but I can still have trees going up it. I can still have a trail, a driving trail for that red truck to go up. I don't know how the red truck's going to be able to go up, but I've got a little plan on how we might be able to see the red truck moving around at various times. I've got a little plan of that. I don't know if it's going to work. I think it involves a second track ride interacting with our track ride. Yeah. Now you can see here we've got some, well, I don't know if it's silver, it's sort of, if it's his, but a style that he does for a lot of his domes is just recreating one item, putting it across to 180 degrees, copying that back to the 90 points, and then copying that down as well, and then just keep copying that until you get that dome. And you can see here the original mountain, and then you can see how it's going to be shaved down to this other sort of size. And what we'll do is we'll start to get a little bit of the terrain and trying to balance it out with some of these markers and allowing them to actually sort of shave down. We'll get back to that in just a sec though. Let's talk a little bit about, so there's a chopper, there's a caldera, there's a robot as well on the caldera. When I say caldera, I mean the summit, the top of the volcano, and it's a completely different scene. Now, what I'm thinking is I might have a natural one here, and we might take it all the way up the top. But what we might do is we might recreate the this indoors, and we might put it inside the volcano. So I might build a big cavern inside the volcano with a box, and we'll put some lighting in there, and we'll do studio lighting, and we'll have the ride vehicle interact with that. So it'll go into, if this is how I'm going to end up doing it, it's all trial and error. But we'll actually have the ride vehicle enter this cavern, and you'll see this sound stage, I guess. And here we go. By the way, here we go. This is the technique I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to see that. I'm trying to get this, and you can start to see this is a bit more of the Mount St. Helens shape of the volcano. This is a little bit more of the volcano shape that we're probably used to. By the way, this is my first time lapse that I've done on the new computer, and I'm using all new software to do this. So I'm not using my Windows Movie Maker that I used to use for my previous time lapses. I'm actually using the Wondershare Filmora, which I use for all my video editing, and of course I'm using OBS now to record this audio. So I'm hoping it's recording. If not, then hey, you'll hear it differently because it'll be said differently when I re-record it. So there'll be a caldera scene, and I think by putting that inside in a soundstage, I can have the helicopter interact a lot better. So I think I can control things a little bit better. That will be something that could be quite good. And of course, the mountain does take up a lot of this map. But I guess if we're putting that inside, it's a good use of space as well. So you could see that being another way they would kind of do this. This ride would never be built in real life, but it's just too expensive. Oh, look at that! You can see some of the angles there. That it's all kind of, and carrying those angles down to the ground level. That's where it gets difficult. But already we can see that there's now. If I've basically just skipped ahead, and you can start to see how much of the original mountain is going to be removed. Some of it might be returned. I guess the top of the volcano needs to be tall and steep, but the bottom can really kind of mellow out and get a bit more of an angle, or a bit less of an angle. And sort of be a little bit sort of flatter at the bottom. It can naturally move into its landscape, and I'll show you more about what I mean about that if we go to a free play at the end. Just a few more minutes of the time lapse, and then we'll have a look at a bit of a live action version of how this actually looks. Some other parts that are going to happen. So when they get to, I guess what could happen there is when they get to the lake, and then they go up to the lake. That's where things go slightly wrong. And of course, they're inside the house when in the movie they're inside the house when the lava breaks through the house and it comes out of nowhere. Once you see the lava, there's no going back. It's just ridiculous. It goes everywhere. The car goes over the top of it. It's absolutely crazy. At one point, they do go through the lake with the grandma, and the lake turns to acid because of everything that's happening in the mountain underneath. And of course, that's how the grandma dies. She jumps out, they get across the lake, and the boat starts disintegrating. The grandma gets out and steps into the acidic water, burns her legs, and when they get across, she saves the other sort of four of them plus dog, and then she dies on the bank, which is brilliant because she's really, really annoying. Okay, so after that, I guess the red car is on fire, and the dog jumps in, and there's all this sort of stuff. I'm not sure we're going to have the dog even in the ride. I'm pretty sure that won't be the thing. It won't be a thing. But the car basically gets itself back down to the township, and I guess at the very end as well, the car does get into a mine. So it goes into a mine that we get to see at the start. The young child, the boy, he actually gets into the mine at the start, and they think he's missing, and that's how they bring the whole mine into play. Well, at the end, the mine saves them because this red car bursts into the mine, and it goes deep into it, and they have this sort of NASA emergency transmitting beacon that goes in there, and we'll have this in there as well. It'll beep, and we'll start hearing that, and we'll get some sound effects, and that'll be quite cool. And of course, then what will happen with the ride vehicle is, we're meant to be on the ride vehicle ourselves, but I think what we might be doing is accompanying this red. If we can have the second track ride, we may be accompanying the red Jeep. The red car, and that could be the case that we're actually accompanying it. But either way, we go into this mine, we get stuck in there. Sun comes up, and it's daylight again because we can do that in Planet Coaster, and they get rescued, and you have all the happy music, and it's quite amazing. So this is probably, look, I don't know how many episodes we're gonna get into it. I imagine if all goes well, I imagine, look, I've got quite easily 6, 7 different scenes that I need to play out, and they're big scenes and they're big creations. And of course, if you're looking at Caldera, there might be quite a bit there. So I am going to try and focus one particular scene on one particular episode, but something I will be doing is working on the ride sort of off camera and recording everything and just bringing to you the footage that I really want to bring on. And of course, then at some point as well, we will jump in and do a little bit of sort of looking in real time and actually seeing how the ride is progressing. So we're actually going to wrap up fairly soon. I think I've kind of covered off everything I want for Dante's Peak, the ride. Yeah, this is going to be, don't forget, I think you should have a look at the movie if you get a chance. Have a look at it if you really want to follow this. This is going to be something that we build. It's going to be over kind of 12 months. This is going to be a real long project, and I really look forward to sort of bringing this. My other one, Deep Blue Sea, the ride, is going to be relaunched. It's going to be sort of recreated and relaunched, and there'll be an update coming about this. But the focus at the moment is going to be on this Dante's Peak, the ride. So I hope you've enjoyed the time-lapse part of this. We're actually going to cut into the real time. So I'll see you back in real time, and we'll have a look exactly how the mountain's looking. See you then. Hey guys, so welcome back from the time lapse and into the real play period of this video. So I hope you enjoyed the time lapse and the making of this video. Here is the finished product. This is Dante's Peak. Dante's Peak in the movie is referred as the mountain, but it's also the town. So we have a look here. Here's the example of the town that we saw during those playthroughs. And we could see, now if I go down really close, this is just one of the western blueprints. We'll go down nice and close and we'll look up at the mountain. So I think what I was thinking here is you can see the mountain there, and I like the idea if you scroll out a bit and you go around, you'll see the mountain in the background. I think what will probably happen is the town will end up being a bit more across. So I think the town will be across here. There'll be lots of there'll be a big river coming through here as well. There's going to be a giant river snaking its way around the base of the mountain. And that'll feature in fairly different, in lots of the different scenes as well. So yeah, that's how that all kind of looks. You can see here, what I've actually done is just done a little bit more sort of jaggedy, smoothing out. You can see the rendering as well, the rendering catching up. I've got settings on ultra here, and we're still doing a bit of rendering catching. You would never see the mountain from this point. So from this high point, you'll never see it in the ride. But we're spinning around just to show off a little bit with the computer. Yeah, so if I have a look here, I did want to show you a couple of things just very briefly. So the rocks that I'm going to use these rocks here. These are the alpines. They're going to be for the caldera, the top part. A gradual transition across about this point here, alpine at the top, maybe a few snow ones there. But then these deciduous rocks are going to be the ones, and you can see the blend of the two down here. I've just used a few of these. So I think these the Douglas, the alpine firs. Yeah, so we're going to use alpine firs for most of it, maybe a few other trees as well, definitely some shrubs, but you can see these little sections here. So when we talk about the hot springs, this is the sort of look we're going for. The ride vehicle will come up into here and just look around, and you're in the mountains. Dante's Peak is not the biggest mountain in the area in the lore of the story, but it is the active volcano making it. And then you can see back to the town as well, which I think is great. This has actually turned out better than I thought. The looking back at the town and the scale of the mountain. So I'm glad we sort of changed the shape of it and really got this tall part, because look at that, you're sitting on this rocky outcrop looking at the trees, and you can see the peak just beyond, and there's a lovely eagle flying as well. Okay, we're going to leave it here. I hope you've enjoyed this very first video. Please leave your comments down below. I'd like to hear what you think of the video so far, what the series so far, and how you think it's going to come along. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Stitch Up for more of these and other videos, and I'll see you in the very next episode. Cheers.